Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Sunday afternoon. We have started off live at the waterhole here at Mboro over in the Sabi Sands with some elephants having a lovely sunny mud bath. Looks like a nice breeding herd that have come down to enjoy all of this nice fresh water. So my name is Kerry Dupree and I will be joining you today as your naturalist presenter. We are really excited to have some sunshine in sunny South Africa in the Sabi Sand. It's been a bit of a rainy couple of days, even in Johannesburg. We still have scattered showers in parts of South Africa, so very grateful for the rain, but always lovely to see the sun coming out. And hopefully we'll have a few more visitors at our locations on Live at the Waterhole. So just a reminder that this is a live and interactive experience. If you're watching on the app or on the website, you can head across to register and ask your questions. Send through those comments, questions, any special requests or location requests that you'd like us to change over to. You can also use the QR code on screen now. And don't forget to use the hashtag @WildEarth if you are on Twitter or X. Love to hear from our viewers who is joining us today. How is your Sunday going so far? Again, it's lovely to see sunshine somewhere, whereas it's been a bit of an overcast weekend in most parts of southern Africa. Lots of rain, lots of clouds. A bit of a break from all that hot weather that we've been experiencing over the last couple of weeks. So, very happy to see some elephants. It's been a bit quiet on some of our locations the last few days as well with the rains. Most of our Africam cameras have been a little bit quiet. So, lovely to see some elephants are finally out and about to join us for the day. Colin Eames, thank you for joining us. Good to see that you are back with us on Live at the Waterhole. Colin, if you are new to our Wild Earth community, please feel free to send through any of the locations that maybe you haven't seen or any locations you'd like to try and see what else is there waiting for us. So it looks like we've got quite a few elephant cows here, one big elephant bull amongst this herd. Could be one or two breeding herds of elephants here. Lots of youngsters, juveniles, and sub-adults. Just trying to see this big boy if he turns around, see how their tusks are. How long his tusks are doing. We did have some elephants also at Tembe Elephant Park yesterday, which was lovely to see some big elephant bulls also coming down to the watering hole. They did hang around for quite a while, so we were very privileged with few elephant bulls at Tembe. And of course, the sighting that made my day was those baboons yesterday. I must say, we had an amazing, entertaining few moments at Lintore over in Kenya with some baboons, a big troop of baboons that were coming and getting their selfies in front of the camera, checking the camera out. I think one of the baboons even repositioned the camera. So lots of baboon interactions, lots of very entertaining behavior to watch. So it was definitely made my day. So current weather here in Johannesburg, in most places of Johannesburg and around Gauteng and Limpopo is about 22 to about 25 degrees. If you're lucky, I know Cape Town has had quite a bit of warm, windy weather. Catherine, thank you for sending through your current temperatures. Apparently in Germany is 3 degrees Celsius and pouring with rain. Shame. I hope you managed to get some warm weather sometime soon. All that snow and cold weather. Goodness. I'm sure it is going to be a white Christmas in Germany this year with all the snow you've been experiencing? Helen, thank you for your question about elephants and elephant ages. So, yes, you can determine the age of an elephant by its size, generally with the females and their little ones. Um, when the babies are kind of underneath the level of the female's stomach, that means they're generally about a year or just under a year if they can fit under their mother's belly. And then again, depending on the what sub-adult. So again, if they have a new baby, then you can see the sub-adult, where that sub-adult then falls into place on compared to her leg bone. So it's a good way to use the female to compare the size and age of a younger juvenile. Of course, the big bulls as well, you can always tell with the length of the tusks. Also, their sexual maturity and size as well can be a good way to age an elephant. Also, some of the older elephant bulls and elephant cows, they start dropping their condition a bit. And also obviously losing a lot of weight. And in some cases, I've even seen some elephants where their ears become completely cracked. In some cases, even start curling, like bending forwards. So all these small things can be very good methods of aging an elephant. So this elephant herd has all come down to have a bit of a drink. So often what will happen at watering holes is you'll get elephants coming down for a drink. Might be a few different herds meet up together. Yeah, so they'll all kind of congregate and meet up, all these big elephant herds, smaller elephant family units, and then, yeah, they might form one big super herd while they feed around the pans. But then, generally, especially in the dry season, they do kind of split up into their smaller groups. So it is more common to find bigger elephant herds in the dry season. So they do congregate and meet up together to form bigger herds. And this is also for protection, safety, and security for the little ones. But in the rainy season, when food and water are abundant, then they'll generally split off into their smaller family units and wander off on their own mission. Food is not a big problem. Look at this little one, he's got a branch in his mouth. Shiv, thank you for your question, Shiv, and Merry Christmas to you too. Wishing all of our viewers a happy holidays, and I hope that you are all having a lovely festive season, having a bit of time to yourselves and your family, a bit of a break, and enjoying your holidays all over the place. Yeah, so wishing you a happy holidays, Shiv. About elephant females or elephant cows. So, how the matriarchal system in a herd of elephants works is it's generally more kind of lineage. So, it's not always the oldest matriarch. So, generally, the matriarch is one of the oldest females, but she will generally pass this baton on to her daughter and her daughter's daughter. So it's generally kind of like a monarchy. So the grandmother will pass on all this knowledge and information to her daughter, and then once her daughter becomes old enough, she'll generally take over the herd, lead all of the elephants to safe pastures for grazing as well as safe watering holes. So it's yeah, all the elephants will think, well, spend some time grazing and feeding around this pan. Obviously, there's still quite a lot of food around here, so not too worried. Looks like some magic wari bushes down there that they're roaming around in. Looks like some nice leadwood trees. nice riverine thicket, which provides lots of good vegetation for these elephants to feed on. So, elephants are a keystone species, which does mean that they do play quite an important role in the ecosystem. So I like to call them the gardeners of the African bush. So elephants are like seed dispersers over long distances. So they do help to disperse seeds, and a lot of plants and trees actually need to go through the digestive system of an elephant in order to spark the growing yeah, and able to make these seeds grow. So some of the seeds that elephants feed on, like the alala palms, is a good example. If they do not go through the digestive system of an elephant, yeah, it's a bit more difficult for the seeds to actually grow. So some of these fruit that they eat are very cumbersome, very hard, very difficult for them to grow in the natural environment. And a lot of these trees will actually grow their seeds and have different adaptations to their seeds in order to disperse the seeds far and wide and through different types of animals' digestive systems. So that's why a lot of fruit they might be easily accessible for birds and smaller creatures and critters to have access to these seeds, whereas trees that might want their offspring to grow further away from them, they don't want to be all clustered and grow in one place, might make their seeds a bit more cumbersome, a bit harder in order to be spread and propagated by elephants. Shame, it looks like we've got one little elephant here, sub-adult. It's got a bit of a floppy ear. So yeah, elephants also, by feeding in specific areas, they also create open clearings in order for other mammals to move. So, for example, like in West Africa, with the forest elephants and these dense forests that are impenetrable to man or beast, the elephant paths are the only ways to move around. So these elephants, by moving through very dense, thick areas, allow openings to be cleared, and that helps to disperse animals and wildlife and help make movement and pathways for other creatures to move. And also, obviously, the digging of elephants. So, elephants are a very big contributor in the ecosystem to watering holes. So, by elephants digging in soil, in sand for minerals, this also helps to create small pans and watering holes, which does also provide a source of water to a lot of other mammal species, like your kudu, your bushbuck, your duikers, squirrel species, francolin, guinea fowl. So yeah, a lot of species do benefit from having elephants in the ecosystem. So we're just having a bit of a scan around at some of our other locations to see what else is out there today. But again, because of all the rains that we've been having, it's a little bit quiet at some of our other locations where the African cameras are. So I think we're just going to really enjoy watching these elephants as they move through the bush and just enjoy this sighting. See, haven't seen too many elephants the last couple of days. So, yeah, when it's raining like this, a lot of elephants will generally head off to areas that are not always accessible to people. So, these pans, popular pans, and places where we go to view elephants can become quite overgrazed during the dry season. So, when the rains arrive, the elephants follow other pathways which might take them further away from kind of very trafficked human areas, and these are the very remote areas that might have more food for them. So it's quite interesting how intelligent elephants are, and how it's actually quite amazing how they do have personalities. So elephants are highly emotional and sensitive animals, known to express quite a few characteristics such as joy, compassion, and even grief. So I'm sure you've most of our viewers have heard of the fact that elephants, if they pass through a carcass of another elephant or an individual in the group that they might have lost in previous years, they'll actually hang around the bones of these elephants, dead elephants, and they'll actually mourn. I think I watched a documentary, must have been a David Attenborough documentary about a family group of elephants that mourned the death of one of the elephants in their group that had died the year prior, and they actually stood around these bones for it must have been 8 to 10 hours, standing around those bones mourning. So they're very highly intelligent, very good memories. Obviously, they do get very excitable during the period when calves do give birth. So you can hear a lot of vocalizations and trumpeting and playful behavior when a baby elephant gets born. So the youngsters also quite playful, I must say. But yeah, elephants are iconically known to have very good memories. Shiv, thank you for your comment there. So we got a comment from Shiv saying those elephants were on the live drives a couple of times. Ben called the elephant with the floppy ear Dumbo. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think the Dumbo, the elephant with the floppy ear, that's probably in Juma. We are at Nkoro Bush Lodge in Sabi Sands, so not quite the same location, but we do have an elephant. This is the first one I've seen at Nkoro, but there is also a floppy eared elephant at Tembe as well, a big, well, sub adult bull that does also have a floppy ear. And I think I've seen that little one at Juma, elephant at Juma with a floppy ear. So it's generally just the cartilage. So what happens is sometimes the cartilage can be damaged in some way, which causes the ear to flop forwards. So it can happen, it can be a natural, generally a natural thing. Often when elephants are moving through thick bush and vegetation, they can damage the cartilage in their ears, which does cause the ear to flop forwards. And again, it's a quite a good identifying feature. You definitely won't forget that elephant once you see him with his floppy ear. So it looks like we've got some Egyptian geese and blacksmith lapwings here at this little planet in coral. We did have a hippo. There was a big male hippo that during the end of the dry season, I think about 2 months ago, he did come and reside in this pan, but I think it's quite a shallow pan. So, yeah, that hippo didn't stay for very long, and I'm sure with all the elephant activity, he very quickly moved off. I think there's also a hippo. There's been a hippo at Rosie's pan, so I think we'll have a check, see if our hippo is still there at Rosie's pan. He's been there for quite some time. I'm surprised he stayed there for quite a while because generally smaller pans like this. Alrighty, why don't we head across to Tembe Elephant Park and see what we have waiting for us in Tembe. So we did have a giraffe here the other day, also a nice big specimen of a male giraffe, very thick neck. So looks like he's come down for a drink. I think Tembe did also have some very light showers yesterday afternoon. But at the end of the show, it was lovely watching the elephants in the rain. So just enjoy watching this elephant bull go down for a drink. Come on, boy. Then you can see difference between male and hippo, male and female giraffe. They obviously that big thick neck in the male, so often males will have much thicker necks and shoulders, and this male does have very nice thick ossicones, which are also pretty uh, hairless or bald at the top. So yeah, it's a good indicating feature for the giraffe, male giraffe. Seems rather nervous for some reason. Doesn't seem to be any elephants around here at Tembe today, but yeah, it was really lovely to see all of those very big elephant bulls yesterday, having a good old mud bath. Also feeding on quite a lot of minerals. That is a puffback calling there. Looks like he's got some oxpeckers that are giving him a bit of a hassle there, cleaning away. And look, there's oxpecker on his head. So, George, very good question. So, giraffe. Let's just watch this giraffe drinking for a moment, shall we? Ah, isn't that an epic sighting? So, giraffe generally tend to be quite nervous at watering holes or at pans while going down for a drink. So, they'll generally take their time before having a drink. So, when giraffe are in this position, bending down all the way to have a drink like that, it's almost like a bit of a yoga pose. Um, Makes themselves very vulnerable to predators. And the only time I've ever seen lions at Tembe Elephant Park has actually been at this kind of section of the pan. So, yeah, they do have to be very wary, very cautious before they go down for a drink, especially if they're solitary. Like this is a solitary bull, it's a big male that's on his own. Doesn't have too many other individuals for protection. If there's a big group, then they'll generally walk down to the pan, might be a little bit more, yeah, relaxed when drinking. Davina, good question there about the difference between male and female giraffes. So obviously, the size males can be quite a bit bigger than females in size. The neck, so you can see the neck and shoulders of the males generally a lot thicker, a lot broader from all that fighting. But the head is a very good giveaway indicator. So often males will have much larger heads with quite a lot of big lumps over their head, and that's from fighting with other males. But the ossicones, so the ossicones, those horns on the top of their head, males are generally quite thick and quite upright, very bald at the top, whereas females' ossicones generally tend to be very thin, narrow. They sometimes tend to arc inwards as well and have a little bit of fur and fluff on the top. But juvenile giraffe can be young males can be a bit more difficult to tell. Sometimes the young males do sometimes still have a fur on the top of their ossicones, but they will always be bald in the center. So it's kind of like with humans. Sometimes you get the older gentlemen as they start aging and becoming a bit wiser in their age, they do tend to lose hair in the middle, so you do get that receding hairline and a bit of fur around. Yeah, it's kind of the yeah. So yeah, nice big male giraffe. So also, I know a lot of people do think that only actually this is the same giraffe that was here about 2 days ago. Because have a look, he's got very interesting coloration. His neck is almost like a two-tone color. So he's got a very light neck, and then his body is almost like a different color. So this is the same individual we saw about 2 days ago. I think he came down for a drink. So thanks for your question there, Davina. Maybe he's going to have another drink. So we have another question that's come through from Sanjeev Roy. Thank you for asking about the hippo populations and why the hippo numbers are dwindling in South Africa. So it can be a quite a variety of factors. So often, obviously, like a lot of animals, habitat loss is a big issue, but so is rainfall. So as I'm sure most of you are aware that yeah, Africa, we've been struggling to get some decent rains the last couple of years. So obviously that does mean habitat of these hippos will be depleting. So less water, less habitat. Obviously, degradation of watering holes will be a big issue because there's less dams, more fighting in hippos. Males will kind of be very dominant. So a lot of hippos will start fighting with one another because there's not enough habitat. So males will generally can be quite aggressive and kill each other. So these are just a few very yeah, a few factors that could be linked to why hippo populations are dwindling in South Africa, Southern Africa. Our giraffe is hiding from us. So yeah, just a very few factors as to why hippo populations could be dwindling in South Africa. Yeah, early in the Delta this year, I know there was a big problem this year with hippos chasing and attacking makoros. I was very lucky that I was on a trip, and the next, yeah, we were on a trip just before there was a quite a major incident that happened. A hippo actually attacked a Makoro while there were some clients on the Makoros. And yeah, we were on the trip just before that accident attack happened, and we had the same hippo that was giving us trouble. So, yeah, what happens, especially in like the Delta, I was quite surprised. Very low water levels in the Delta earlier this year before the rains arrived from Angola. And yeah, obviously this means kind of like the habitat has been depleted and really diminished, and the hippo bulls, the solitary bulls, then have nowhere to go. So they start fighting with one another. And there was one bull that he was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. There was a pod of hippos that were chasing him away, and another solitary bull that was also chasing him away. So he didn't really have anywhere to go. So he was being quite aggressive. We actually had to dock our makoros about 2 kilometers before the main Makoro docking station and walk with all of our gear around to the main pickup station for the Makoro, where everyone gets collected because these hippos were, yeah, being rather aggressive and not letting us pass through these very small channels. So yeah, the next trip that came through, that male hippo actually attacked one of the makoros. Luckily, no one was harmed, no one was hurt, everyone was okay. But yeah, this does happen, and again, it's very stressful for these animals, especially during the dry season. So that's why aquatic, yeah, enough rainfall, adequate rainfall every season is, yeah, not just important for the animals that need to drink water, but also the aquatic mammal species that do live inside of these water uh, reservoirs. So yeah, giraffe is giving himself good luck. Alrighty, folks. Well, it looks like we're going to be able to catch the vulture feeding. So why don't we quickly pop across to Victoria Falls and check out the vulture feeding at Safari Lodge. Alrighty, so it looks like we have arrived just in time for the vulture feeding. So once the guys come out with the food for the vultures, we're going to have a bit of a quiet moment so we can all just watch the chaos unravel as all these vultures come in from far and wide to get their lunch. So we've got quite a few white-backed vultures. So I'll be looking out for any new vulture species today. So please, folks, if any of you birders are watching, I'd appreciate if anyone can help me see if we can spot a new vulture species. So generally, the common vulture species we get here is the white-backed vulture. We do get the hooded vultures, these small ones just kind of in the center of the frame here at the bottom, with kind of bald, bare heads and necks. You could also expect to see some marabou storks, but yeah, if we get any cool new vulture species, that would be awesome. Like the Cape vulture, much bigger and larger, slightly different coloration to the white-backed. I would love to see a white-headed vulture, would be pretty cool. Or lapid-faced vulture. Lapid-faced vultures, they have the very, very big, broad, cumbersome bill and very pink on the head, neck, and face. So, yeah, fingers crossed, maybe we can see some new vulture species. Otherwise, yeah, it just looks like for now we're just sitting with the white-backed vultures or patiently waiting for their lunch. They're on the stalk, on the prowl. It's amazing how they all know the time of day that they need to be fed. So it's probably can be linked to kind of the sun. I'm guessing vultures are very intuitive with the time of the day. They generally use the location of the sun. And once you get a few vultures coming into this vulture restaurant that know when the feeding time is, then all the other vultures that are around in the area will definitely hone in and come to try and get a few little pieces of food. Oh, seems to be some little kids that have got the privilege of helping to feed the vultures. How exciting is that? So, yeah, good of them to spread out all these bits of food all over the place. You don't get too much fighting. I'm sure the vultures do not know what's going on here. Like, just feed us, guys, please. Uh, Michael the Busker. Yes, we do have some hooded vultures that have also joined here as well. And the madness is about to begin. So lots of excitement there with the vulture feeding. Oh my gosh, I always love the vulture feeding here at Safari Lodge. Always rather entertaining with all these vultures coming down. Lady Macbeth, yeah, so agreeing with you there. It's yeah, lovely to be able to catch the vulture feeding today on this lovely sunny Sunday. Looks like Victoria Falls is having some nice weather. I do believe they have had a bit of rainfall this week as well in Victoria Falls. Lots of heavy winds, heavy rains as well. Very unusual weather in Vic Falls, I believe. Obviously, I spent a bit of time in Zimbabwe, Victoria Falls, and Wangi the last couple of months. And yeah, August, what are we? December. So November, September, November, where they did have some very strange weather, some very interesting winds, and even mini cyclones. Well, little kind of whirlwinds, not cyclones, sorry, that yeah, caused quite a lot of damage to quite a few camps. Solar panels damaged, Vic Falls and Wangi, both locations. Yeah, last month I even had my tent almost blowing away with me in it while I was in Wangi. So yeah, rather entertaining and shame. A lot of damage for maintenance teams to do in the lodges. So yeah, very strange weather. Hopefully the rain means that it's bringing in some rainfall. Fingers crossed. Michael the busker. Yes, we did have quite a few hooded vulture here. So yeah, there's quite a few little hooded vultures. So you'll see, obviously during the feeding, the white-backed vultures do have quite an unfair advantage because of their body size. So they push themselves through to get as much food as possible. And the little hooded vultures are kind of just hoping to stick their head in here and there and maybe grab any scraps that are left over. So, Michael, I agree with you there. The vultures here are like the seagulls at the docks, very yeah, looking to pick up on any scraps. That can be quite a bit of a nuisance, but yeah, they seem to have had a good feeding today. And Catherine, I agree with you there. It's like, when you're feeding your animals at home, the vultures were definitely waiting very patiently there for their food. I think because there was some, yeah, seems like they got a very good feeding in. Colin Eames, I'm not too sure. It seems like they did get fed a decent amount of food here. So Colin was asking if they get more food on a Sunday after the Sunday night dinner from all the guests. Obviously, Victoria Falls is one of the seven natural wonders of the world. So a lot of visitors coming through. Victoria Falls is a very busy place. I'm not too sure how their feeding routine is from one day to the next. But yeah, I did have some questions earlier about the ethics kind of behind vulture restaurants and vulture feeding, and if yeah, they're being fed enough, or if yeah, so quite a lot of vultures do come to this restaurant on a daily basis. Anything between 50 to 80 vultures will come down to feed, and the chance of being able to feed them enough that every vulture gets full is very, very slim. So for these vultures, this is more just like the chance of getting a very small piece of food that might sustain them for a day or two. But yeah, there's very slim chances that they would be able to feed all of these vultures enough food to sustain their diet. So they still have to go out, they still have to go and feed, they still have to go and yeah, look for food elsewhere. I mentioned the other day, as long as these vulture restaurants are safe, the food that they're being fed is safe, lead free, no plastic, and the watering holes are close by for them to drink, have are vulture friendly, then vulture restaurants can be a very good way to monitor vulture species. And obviously, vultures are very much an endangered and vulnerable species, so anything that we can do to try and help them is useful. Two hooded vultures on the left here, phew, having a bit of a scrap. So, Robert, thank you for your comment. Yep, I agree with you there. Vultures do consume quite a lot of meat very quickly, so it does show how the carcasses in the wild can be very quickly cleaned up without a problem. So yeah, it's quite interesting. When I was at Mabula on my last stint, we did notice that yeah, there's not too many vulture species around Mabula there. And again, it can be linked to some of the farms in the area. So of course, farmers are not very fond of vultures. So yeah, a lot of poisonings can take place in farming areas and farming lands. Also, areas that might have a lot of power lines and not enough habitat can be void of vultures. But then the problem is, then you have all these carcasses, which there's nothing to clean up. So vultures are very important in the ecosystem. They help to um, remove any dead and decaying matter that is otherwise unpalatable to most other species. So, yeah, definitely a very huge advantage to having vultures around. I know most of the world villainizes vultures, and they're seen as the undertakers of the other side and the bringers of death. But they are very important for our ecosystem to keep it free of parasites and bacteria. So it's actually pretty cool. Vultures, if you have a look at these hooded vultures, for example, very white feet, and vultures, including marabou storks, will actually defecate on their legs. Their feces are very high in acid, so very high acidity levels. So very high acidity levels in these vulture dung, or kind of urine, that the uric acid very high, and that actually acts as an anti-parasitic. So it helps to protect the vulture's legs from getting infected with parasites while they're at kill site. It's pretty cool. Shame there's last few little vultures looking for any pieces of food. Often you'll get the bush pigs, the warthogs, will often come and visit this vulture restaurant. So warthogs are, most pig species are obviously omnivores. So yeah, on a few occasions I've actually seen the warthogs fighting with vultures for a little bit of meat or a little bit of food here and there. Quite weird if you think of it. You don't think of a warthog actually eating meat. Like, I think of a warthog just feeding on greenery and grass. They'd be herbivores. So when you realize that warthogs are actually omnivores, quite interesting. So Lady Macbeth, yes, you are 100% correct there. So, yeah, nice to see so many vultures in one place because, yes, a lot of vulture species, in fact, all vulture species are mostly either critically endangered or are vulnerable in most areas, and some species have become extinct from some areas. As I mentioned, Mabula, I don't think I saw a single vulture around Mobula, which is very strange because obviously they have a lot of predators. We did have a lot of kills at Mobula from the cheetah, the wild dog, and the lion. So to see no vultures is rather strange for me. So I can see once the vultures have finished feeding at the vulture restaurant, they'll generally head down to the nearest watering spot to have a good drink of water. Sometimes they might even clean themselves. You can imagine vultures do get quite filthy at carcasses while feeding away. That's why a lot of vulture fish species, you can see their necks and heads are void of feathers, and this is to give them the ability to put their heads into carcasses and feed without getting too dirty to new parasites and bacteria. And we have a marabou stork that's also joined the party. Yeah, so the marabou storks very long legs, and yeah, this really helps them well at kills. It kind of gives them the ability and the height to quickly roam around and steal food. So those long bills of theirs, especially adapted for stealing food. So just like this marabou is stealing all the food from the little hooded vultures. Shame. Poor vultures. So marabous do actually hunt. So yes, they're primarily scavengers, but they will hunt from time to time. So I've seen on a few occasions marabous hunting fish. So during the dry season, when all these puddles start to dry up, the marabous will actually hunt for fish in those puddles. And the vulture's having a good drink. It's quite cool. We did see some vultures here yesterday having a bit of an anting session. So they were anting themselves on the ground here. So quite cool, the anting behavior, which is common in most bird species, where they do let ants crawl over their feathers. And this does help to create a bit of an anti-parasitic almost like an insect repellent on their feathers. So the formic acid, which is released by the ants when disturbed and on the feathers of these vulture, help to one curb and reduce any bacteria or any insects that might be growing, like mites that could damage their feathers, and also prevent further insects from going onto their wings and feathers, because obviously vultures spend a lot of time in very dirty environments. So yeah, they need to do as much as they can to protect those feathers of theirs. We were talking about vultures the other day. One of my favorite vulture species, definitely, I'd have to say, is the bearded vulture. The bearded vulture does occur in the western, in KZN in South Africa, generally residing in more mountainous areas. So it does look very similar to the condor. We're also talking about condor and how there's been a lot of condor rehabilitation projects that have taken place. One being in Canada, where they actually started breeding these condor and reintroducing them into the wild. So yeah, some of these very specialized vulture species, obviously, yeah, are more so a threat than like your white-backed vulture or hooded vulture. But yeah, my favorite vulture species, I definitely have to say, would be the bearded vulture, followed by the Egyptian vulture. I don't know. There's something about the Egyptian vulture. I know it has a very strange yellow face, but yeah, I don't know. They just seem like very cool vulture species. So yeah, so you do find these vultures often at kill sites. So you'll find vultures sometimes during just before the nesting season. You can also find them. Feeding on pieces of bone, so especially the bones from an elephant skull. You'll find vultures picking at those little bones, and that helps to give them enough calcium so that when they lay their eggs are strong and they have enough calcium in their body to generate those eggs so that they have a good start at life. So Petri, thank you for your question. So Petri is asking what the main cause of fatalities in vultures are. So obviously, with most species in Africa, a huge factor that might affect the decline in a population was obviously habitat loss. So habitat loss for these vultures is a huge problem. Vultures do need quite big trees, bigger canopy trees, in order to build their nests, which a lot of these trees might have been pushed over by elephants or affected by elephants in some way, or even in some rivers and streams might have a lot of erosion can actually cause these trees to fall over. So yeah, nesting availability of nesting trees is a massive issue. One, and then obviously poisoning can be another big issue. So if poachers are poisoning a carcass to kill lions, for example, or a predator of some sort, or even just to take ivory from an elephant's carcass, vultures are actually affected by that poison. So it's a kind of unfortunate secondary form of poisoning. So, yeah, anything that feeds on that carcass will die. So yeah, poison carcasses are a big issue for vultures, but I mean, it doesn't just kill the vultures. Anything that comes and feeds on these carcasses will also possibly die, like your smaller predators, your cats, your caracals, jackals. So that can be a very big contributing factor to the decline in vulture populations. Of course, as well as electrocution. Vultures do get electrocuted by a lot of these big power lines and power stations, can cause a big problem. So I know, especially in South Africa, BirdLife South Africa has worked very hard with Eskom, and they've actually come up with a vulture friendly or vulture safe cap that goes onto the top of these pylons to protect them from the vultures from being electrocuted. So yeah, there's a few factors. Drowning can also be a big factor. So again, if you want to make your reserve or property a vulture friendly, vulture safe zone, not only do you need to have a lead-free vulture restaurant, you also need to have either vulture ladders, or you can even just put a stick into some of your water troughs, like a big piece of driftwood. Because often vultures will go for a drink and might drown in the water troughs. But yeah, one of the main also leading factors of decline in vulture populations is also lead poisoning. So, BirdLife South Africa, there's a woman by the name of Linda. Oh, shucks, I can't remember her surname. She works for BirdLife South Africa, and she does an amazing vulture presentation. So you can go and give it a Google. I think it's on YouTube as well. A good presentation about lead poisoning and how lead poisoning actually affects vultures. So these are just a few factors that do affect the decline in these vulture species. Another one of my favorite vulture species is the palm nut vulture. I don't know if we have any viewers out there that have ever seen a palm nut vulture. So actually, yeah, I'd love our viewers to tell me which is your favorite vulture species. I'd love to see which is the most popular vulture species out there. I know they're not the most popular birds. Yeah, please feel free to send through your favorite vulture species, and I'd love to know how many of our birding viewers have ever seen a palm-nut vulture before. Palm-nut vultures obviously have a very limited habitat. So I have seen palm-nut vultures in Richards Bay and in Tanzania in South Africa, but obviously very common to see palm-nut vultures in West Africa. They do like to hang out in very aquatic, watery environments, rivers, streams, even coastal regions, and obviously they have a very specialized diet. They're mostly frugivores. So, yeah, pretty interesting to think of a vulture that mostly feeds on fruit. They do obviously dig around in elephant dung, look for grubs from time to time. So they're still omnivores, but fruit does comprise of a large percentage of their diet. So please, folks, I'd love to know what vulture species is your favorite vulture species. I'm going to go for I think I'm going to stick with my bearded vulture on this one, but mine would definitely be bearded vulture and palm nut vulture. So send through your favorite vulture species. Let's see who are the popular vultures out there. We've still got some hooded vultures hanging around, so it's interesting how the hooded vultures have different colorations on their heads and face. So this can be different ages, so juveniles, adults, males, females, and also individuals that might be sexually mature can also have different colorations on their heads. Send through those vulture names. I'd love to see what names are going to come up. I'm hoping for more palm nut vulture lovers, Egyptian vultures. Condor is also beautiful. If you're from South America, I'd love to see if we have any viewers that have seen the condor. I have seen this condor before. Again, waited a very long time to see these condors that generally nest and breed inside the cliffs, mountains, and mountains of the Andes. Alrighty, well, it seems like the activity levels here with our vultures have died down a little bit, so why don't we head across to Stony Point and check out what's happening with our little rock dussies. Oh, there's a little hyrax, a female with her three little babies. How cute is that? So we saw this female, I think, the other day with the little babies suckling. Isn't this just such a cool sighting? And this hyrax, if I didn't see her breathing, I would assume that she was dead. Looks like she's in a very, very comfortable position. Aw, these kids are so adorable. I'm wondering if it's three or if there might be four now, but the other day when we saw them, there was definitely three little baby hyraxes. Oh, there's three youngsters, and then there's two sub adults. Oh, this is just like a little hyrax heaven here, isn't it? Oh, This is so cute. Shame this female has been woken up. I'm sure she's very unhappy that her slumber has been disturbed. We're just enjoying watching these little hyraxes here. How entertaining is this? This is probably a very similar spot. We saw them actually feeding the other day. So lovely to watch these baby hyraxes feeding away. How adorable. It's so lovely to listen to the sound of the ocean here at Stony Point. I know we've got some vultures that are coming in. So some of our asked a question earlier about what everybody's favorite vulture species is. So thank you for sending those through. So we've got a few comments here. So we've got lapid-faced vulture from Petrie. So that's awesome. Picasso said white-headed and palm-nut vulture. Obviously in Canada you have the turkey vulture. Yeah, the turkey vulture is also actually quite not a bad looking vulture, so I don't blame you for liking the turkey vulture. Thank you for sending through your vulture species there. Very, very cool. But yeah, palm-nut vulture, And that Egyptian vulture also very cool. So, R. Lara Moore, thank you for your comment there about hyraxes. So, yeah, hyraxes do have specially modified fangs or teeth, are very, very sharp. So, because they're so vulnerable to predators, so hyraxes obviously are not the best at running. They don't have very good defense mechanisms when it comes to being agile and very quick. They're very quick at dashing into the rocks, not good at running long distances. Those fangs are modified in order for them to be able to feed very quickly so they don't have to spend a lot of time exposing themselves in the open areas where they could be picked off by some predators. So yes, very specially modified teeth, very sharp. I would not want to be bitten by a hyrax. So very cool to see this female hyrax feeding her youngsters here. So these hyraxes actually have 4 pairs of mammae. So I also just recently learned that the other day. So they actually have 8 individual mammae glands or 4 pairs of mammary glands. We also got another question from Picasso about dassies and elephants and how they have very similar toes and toenails and toe bones. So yeah, so elephants and rock dassies are both descendants from a common ancestor who died about 50 million years ago. But yeah, they do have very common characteristics and traits. So the teeth are very similar. Obviously, elephants have those long tusks, whereas hyraxes have those little fangs. And also we have a lot of similarity in the toe structure of the hyraxes. So obviously you see these hyraxes have very cute little knobbly toes with almost like a little nail on the end of the toes, very rounded and help. So Rob is asking another question about what are Dussie's natural predators. So everything would love to eat a rock Dussie. So they're natural predators besides humans. I obviously know in a lot of areas that humans do love to eat rock Dussies. They are very much sought after by all predators because they have a very high fat content, and obviously they spend a lot of their time lazing around on the rocks in full rock dusty mode. They only spent about 15%, 10 to 15% of their day actually moving around feeding. The rest of the day, they just kind of chilling, slumbering around. So yeah, they're natural predators. I think I've seen some documentaries where caracal do come for these rock dussies in Stony Point, obviously leopard in some areas. Rock dussies do are a main prey species to leopards. So leopard do like to eat dussies, rock dussies. It's a very beneficial meal, like we said, very high in fat, not very difficult to catch, so very easy food for leopards. Pythons will also eat rock dussies. Smaller predators like serval, if they can get there, if they can get an unsuspecting rock dusty definitely will, and even birds of prey. So bigger birds of prey like your black eagle. Black eagle's diet is also majority rock dussies. So in parts of Africa where you get a lot of rocky outcrops, where there's a lot of perfect habitat for these rock dussies, you will generally have a very healthy population of black eagles because black eagles do normally feed on these hyraxes. Oh goodness! The little baby was trying to clean its leg and almost fell off of the rock. So quite interesting. A lot of studies have been done recently about black eagles and obviously why their numbers are also declining in some national parks, especially where they should be doing well. And again, the one contributing factor to that is obviously besides having unsafe nesting areas, another factor can also be the fact that they have no food. So if the rock dusty population plummets, so does the black eagle population. So obviously, black eagles are another big bird of prey that's very much on the vulnerable status. So Michael the busker, yes. I'm glad that we could show you a new mammal species. These hyraxes, oh man, they are very, very cute. And watching these little babies, so these little hyraxes are probably a couple of months old already. These look like they're pretty well developed already, little hyraxes. Oh, look at that. Isn't that just adorable? So hyraxes do actually have extremely long pregnancies. The gestation period for a hyrax, female hyrax like this, is generally 7 to 8 months, which is pretty crazy for such a small creature. If you think of little hyraxes weighing anything between 1.5 to 3 kilograms, and they have the same gestation period as us humans. So, yeah, the female generally will give birth to anything from 1 to 4 pups. So baby hyraxes are known as pups. And that's also why they have so many mammary glands, is because their survival is more their survival is better in larger numbers. They do need to make sure they feed their babies as much and as quickly as possible so that they have larger family groups in order to survive. So these little babies, hyraxes, are born with their eyes open, and within a few hours they can run and jump. So that means they are generally precocial. So they're born as precocial infants, meaning that they are not 100% dependent on their mothers as soon as they're born. They're furry, and they can open their eyes within a couple of minutes and start running and jumping and playing as well. Oh, isn't this just such an awesome sight? So these hyraxes do also have specially adapted claws, which are also adapted for grooming and also for scratching themselves. So yeah, family bonds in these hyraxes is very important. So you generally have big colonies, anything up to 50 hyraxes all in one colony, and they do spend a lot of time together grooming and feeding one another in order to form those very strong social bonds. Shiv, so hyraxes are herbivores and they do mostly feed on grass, so grass and green vegetation that might be within these rocky crevices. And like I mentioned, they don't have to eat a lot of food in order to sustain those bodies of theirs. They only eat for a very small portion of their day. So, Spas Incog, thanks for your question there about if hyraxes harbor any parasites. So, of course, just like any furry creature, they do definitely give a perfect habitat for a lot of parasites, external parasites as well as internal parasites. So, a very common external parasite that I can think of is obviously ticks. So, these hyraxes are a very good host for ticks. So, obviously, they can transmit diseases through or pathogens through the ticks that they host. But because they're very furry and fluffy, and because they're not very active, they are also prone to getting lice and fleas quite often. This can actually cause skin conditions within these species. So, yeah, it's quite common. Obviously, the internal parasites that these hyraxes can also harbor are things like worms, and they do have some sort of protozoa parasites, which they do also harbor. So that can also be a little bit of a problem for anything that might eat these hyraxes, those internal parasites. So make sure that they are not a vector to transmit any diseases. So one of the protozoa parasites that can actually be transmitted by eating a parasite is actually a disease which is carried by the tsetse flies or sand flies. So if a bird of prey or a leopard does eat a hyrax that is infected with one of these diseases, it can also stand a chance at contaminating some diseases from feeding on these hyraxes. This little baby is having the greatest time lying on his mother's belly. You can see as the female's belly rises and falls. How lovely is it just listening to the sound of the ocean and watching these very cute little critters. Alrighty, well, it's been lovely being here at Stony Point. I must say, I always love hearing the sound of the ocean, and of course, it has been a complete cuteness overload with these little hyraxes. But why don't we head over to Naledi and see what else is waiting for us? Looks like we have a hippo lying underneath the shade of this tree at the water's edge. It looks like a big old bull, hippo bull probably. See, he's almost lying on his side a bit, so this could be his hip that's kind of sticking out here, or it could be an old injury. And if you didn't know any better, one would think that this was just a rock on the side of the water. See, this is a big male hippo, so solitary male hippo. So you do get family groups of hippos are known as pods, and anything between 2 to even 20, 30 individuals can be in one pod of hippo. Yeah, this hippo seems pretty undeterred and relaxed. Yeah, he doesn't seem bothered at all. So hippos are quite social animals, and yeah, I do love. We had a really cool sighting recently of a hippo at Rosie's Pan that was showing off his whiskers. So these whiskers do play quite an important role in the physical contact and communication between hippos, especially when they're close to one another. So they have these very thick, bristly hairs and whiskers on their noses, and that kind of forms a very important communication method for hippos, especially while under the water. This hippo is not being cooperative. His head is kind of very much hidden in the thickets there. So yeah, besides the whiskers on their noses and yeah, having some very soft hair just next to their ears. They also have some soft hair on their ears that also prevents small insects from getting into their ears. Hippos are mostly hairless, as you can see. And this bull, shame, it does look like he has quite a few places that are covered in some nasty cracks. So yeah, old hippo bulls like this can get quite a few nasty contusions on their skin, a few nasty gashes. He's sleeping. He does not seem phased at all. So, just like a hyrax or a rock dussie, the life of a hippo is also pretty chilled, I must say. So they'll lie around resting during the day, and generally hippos will come out at night, and that's when they feed. So hippos are mostly herbivores. They do feed on grass, so they can walk up to 30 kilometers in a night in order to find greener pastures and grass to feed on.
10, 9, live.
No, he's not moving much, this hippo. So he'll just lie here, enjoying himself, seeking refuge in the shade. If he's unlucky, hopefully doesn't get any oxpeckers coming and digging in those cuts of his. So yeah, the oxpeckers can be quite a nuisance to hippos like this, so they do keep those wounds of theirs open. They can be very good, obviously, keeping wounds clean from being yeah, any too much infection, but they can also be quite a nuisance to large-skinned or thick-skinned animals like your hippo, buffalo, and even impala and giraffe by keeping wounds open and not allowing them to heal. Oh, there we go. There's our oxpecker we spoke about. So maybe if we watch for a little bit, we'll see what this oxpecker is going to get up to. I really hope that he doesn't dig into these open cuts. Let's just have a few moments. We'll watch what this red-billed oxpecker is going to get up to. But shame, there's some nasty cracks and crevices here that can end up causing him to be, yeah, a little bit exposed. So a bit of movement there. Oh. You see, that oxpecker is definitely trying to get into places that he shouldn't be getting into. And yeah, opening up some wounds here. So the hippo is trying to chase him away. Let's see if the oxpecker is going to come back, shall we? We can also hear in the background some European bee-eaters flying overhead. So on an overcast day like today, you can sometimes find hippos. Oh my goodness! I'm so surprised there's a hippo at this little pan. I thought that there would be more water here by now. Very interesting. So we were talking about cyanobacteria earlier in the week, and obviously this pan does not look too appealing, very green. I don't think this pan is infected with cyanobacteria though, but definitely has quite a thick green layer over the pan. But shame, this poor hippo is probably exhausted from moving around looking for a bigger water source. I don't think he'll be here very long. Like I mentioned earlier in the show about hippos and small habitats, and especially places like this, it's a very small pan, can have a lot of elephant activity, elephants coming for a swim, so not the best place for a hippo to reside for a long time. So don't know how long he'll be here, but yeah, nice to see him here in the meantime. Perfect place along the water's edge to look for any little aquatic creatures. I know there's normally a three-banded plover that hangs out here. And also look for tracks, any tracks of any predators, like terrapins as well. Also a good place to find terrapins on the water's edge. Yeah, it's a shame. This poor hippo. I really do hope he finds a pan with more water. Oh, we've got some impala that have also come down. Maybe they'll come for a drink. So, George, thanks for your question there. So, yes, hippo can live in algae filled water. I know that early in the week there was a bit of an outbreak at Biffle's Hook Dam on Juma, where a lot of fish did die. Again, I think Ben had a few theories about it could have been a lacking of oxygen in the water, so deoxygenation due to buffalo herd coming through and kind of churning up the water, which caused the water to lack oxygen, which could be a reason why the fish died. Hippos, unlike fish, they're not too phased about they're not restricted to being underwater, and obviously they can breathe pretty fine without being underwater. So yeah, they're not too phased about algae, hippo, and especially in drier times. Hippo, as long as they have enough space somewhere and there's water, they are happy. Although they do need to be very careful not to stay in small pans that might dry up with them in the pan. So you don't want to get stuck in the mud. Hopefully we'll get some elephants coming down. That would be nice. But it's still lovely to see our hippo in the corner here and a little herd of impala also grazing close by. Looks like they've had quite a bit of rain here in Olifants. Looks like they might be expecting some more rain. Those clouds, the sky is looking a bit gloomy. But nice to see lots of green grass around.
Think of any photo.
Let's head over to one of our other locations out in Coral, see what we can find. Lovely to see some more elephants joining us here at Nkoro, with our Egyptian geese that are still around and our lapsmith. Might still have some elephants in the background there. I don't know if those are elephants or just mysterious looking bushes. But yeah, it looks like a young elephant bull that is just coming for a midday drink. So you can see by the kind of size of this elephant bull, we were talking about sizing and aging earlier. You can see by the size of this elephant bull, he's probably in his late 30s, going, yeah, late 30s, early 40s. He's still got a bit of body weight to put on before he's a big adult bull. His tusks are also quite short as well. So, yeah, he's one of the adolescent bulls just roaming around, coming to have a drink. Oh, what a lovely bull. So, yeah, it looks like he's already had a mud bath somewhere. So he's half wet and covered in mud. Anyways, why don't we head over to Safari Hook and see what antelope species are waiting for us over in Namibia. Sorry, we're just waiting for our camera to unfreeze at Safari Hook before we head over there. But yeah, looks like Nkoro might also receive some rainfall. Nice cumulonimbus clouds building up there, lots of grey, cloudy weather. So, and this elephant looks like he's in a bit of a rush to head off somewhere. So, if you're ever sitting at a watering hole or a pan and for no reason, and it looks like there could be rain looming or around, or the wind picks up, and elephants all of a sudden take off into different directions and leave very abruptly, I would definitely be very cautious of rain coming. Make sure that you get very comfortable with the rain because, yeah, on multiple occasions, I've seen a lot of people very comfortably sitting at a pan or a hide or watering hole. The elephants all take off because they know the rain is about to arrive, and elephants hate being in open areas during the rain. And yeah, the humans did not take heed and moments later got completely drenched. Oh, so it looks like there's quite a few elephants around, could be quite a few elephant bulls, or maybe our breeding herd that we had earlier. Oh, we have a knob-billed duck that's also joined us at the pan. I wonder if he is a partner or if it's just a solitary male by himself. So we've got a good question here from about rock dassies and elephants. So when animals share a common ancestor like elephants and dassies, do they have any similar DNA? So thanks, Animal Lover, for your question. So yes, so rock dassy is apparently the closest relative to elephants, and again, there are a lot of a few characteristic similarities. So these group of species do look very similar. So elephants, manatees, and hyraxes. There is genetic evidence as well as characteristic features in their structure that does show that they're very similar. Obviously, in the skull, their wrists, the placental also reveals some similarities. Obviously, we spoke about the fangs earlier, so yeah, awesome. So this is a male knob-billed duck that's yeah, looking very comfortable, having a bit of a nap, tucking his head behind his wing there. They're generally always in pairs. I am wondering, maybe we'll have a scan and see if the female knob-billed duck is close by. Where's this female knob-billed duck? Very unusual to see a knob-billed duck on his own. Also had some blacksmith lapwings. Oh, there we go. So yeah, there we go. He does have a partner, so generally you always have the females and male together. Well, this could be actually two males. It does look like two males, so at least he has another individual that is close by. You can see that impressive knob on the end of his bill, which does increase in size, especially during the breeding season, in order to attract the attention of the females. I think they suspect that it's a nice sunny day, so they're having a good nap. And the blacksmith lapwings also generally in pairs. So there should be another one around here somewhere as well. It's difficult to see right now, but in different angles of the light, when they hit these wings of the knob-billed ducks, you do see quite a beautiful iridescent color of their wings there. There we go. Maybe we'll see better on this male here. So they are mostly white and spotty on the breast and belly, and then on the wings it does look black, but they do have a bit of an iridescence that does glow and shine in the sunlight, and does reflect blue and green colors. He's very relaxed. Yeah, two males. They could be two juvenile, two young males. Because generally you do find them in pairs of male and females together. Dark Main Lover, thanks for your question about if there are any places in South Africa that have quicksand. So yes, there are quite a few places in South Africa that have quicksand, especially in some beach and coastal regions. Coastal regions there, and also some of the pans. Never trust pans. I've sunk in a pan before and almost lost my whole leg, so I had to be pulled out by one of the rangers. So yeah, there is a lot of areas where you can get quicksand, sinking sand, and also like sinkholes. I do know two reserves in KwaZulu-Natal and KZN that have actually had to pull rhinos and buffalo out of quick sinking sand because they've managed to get themselves stuck. So yeah, do have to be very careful. Net Nanny, yes, it is lovely to see that this pan has a little bit more water. I'd love to see when Gowrie Dam starts to fill up because it's been a bit dry at Gowrie Dam still, even after all the rain that we've been having. We did have three buffalo bulls yesterday coming through for a nice mud bath and mud wallow, so that was lovely to watch those buffalo having a bit of a mud bath. This knob-billed duck is not very active at this moment. He is very relaxed, just enjoying the sunshine before the rain comes. Maybe he knows there's rain coming soon. Here's our Egyptian goose as well. Let's have a scan, see what else is out there. We're just trying to get a stable feed from one of our other locations. I know Safari Hook is a little bit unstable at this moment, so just trying to get a bit more of a stable feed going here. But yeah, I suspect that they could have some rain sometime today. Look at the wind is also picking up a bit. Had that elephant breeding herd that was browsing and feeding in this tree line earlier there. This is nice open areas for some courses. I'm sure you'd get some good courses at night. Also some nightjars flying around. The pennant-winged nightjar has a very elaborate mating display. Love to see some pennant-winged nightjars again. What else is out there? Maybe we get some birds of prey sitting up in the trees. What else is out there today? Nice to see one of our locations. It's a bit sunny because, yep, the weather's just taken a bit of a turn again in Johannesburg, where I'm currently broadcasting from. And, yep, the rain is back. I'm sure this is also a perfect tree for some owls to roost up at night, or maybe a tawny eagle to sit. Alrighty, we have a bit of a stable feed at Tembe, so why don't we link across to Tembe Elephant Park and see what's waiting for us in Maputo-land, South Africa. Awesome sauce. We have 3 woolly neck storks hanging around. They are solar paneling themselves, that's what I call them. When they've obviously had a bit of a bath and now they are standing out in the sunshine, uh, cleaning and drying off their wings. So it almost looks like they're this little solar panel. It also looks like we've got some barn swallows swooping down onto the water, also drinking. Oh shucks, we've got quite a few woolly neck storks. Looks like at least 5 or maybe 6 woolly neck storks. Yeah, I can see them how their posture is, and they're holding their wings down like that to dry off in the sunshine before it rains again. Also got some little impala. and some hardy-dar ibises. Looks like we've got some baby impala here. I can see 3 baby little impala. Oop, and there's a male Nyala. Goodness, there's a lot happening here at Tembe all of a sudden. Oh, isn't that little baby impala really cute? You can see one lying down there. It's a very strange position that this woolly neck stalk is in as well. And the hardy dars are obviously also sunning themselves and getting dry, getting clean. And we have 3 little baby impala. How cute. Oh, so there's 2 impala here that look like they're playing with one another. Shame. I think one is a bit tired and just resting, and looks like his friend wants to play. We've also got some little oxpecker sitting on the back of this baby impala here. These impala are probably probably less than a week old. And actually, in fact, I did see 3 impala hanging out at this pan earlier in the week by themselves. So it could be the same 3 impala that have now given birth. They haven't quite joined the rest of the herd yet. So often what will happen is a lot of antelope species, the females will actually separate themselves from the herd in order to have their babies in a very quiet place, quiet and safe place away from the herd, in order to allow the baby impalas or their offspring to imprint on them before they join up with the herd again. How cute! Baby creatures seem to be the flavor of our day today. It was lovely watching these 2 little impala here. I was hoping they were going to play. It's always lovely watching little baby impalas play. So often when impalas are young like this, they'll use concealment in order to protect themselves from predators. When their mothers are not with them, they will hide in the grass in order to conceal themselves and hope that they don't get picked up by predators. Very cute little impala. So yeah, these baby impala are very quick at learning. So within a few days of being born, they can already strong enough in order to be able to run around and move and follow their mothers and join the herd. So yeah, within minutes of them being born, they can actually stand and run already. And generally, it will take anything between like 3 to 4 days, sometimes 5 days, for them to rejoin up with the rest of the herd. And they'll be running and jumping and playing along their mother. And generally, with a lot of baby animals, they learn from their parents. So, monkey see, monkey do, as the female impala eats specific foods and grasses. That's when the baby impalas will also follow, while they are also suckling to substitute their diet as well. So most of these little fawns or baby impalas are entirely dependent on their mother's milk, and after a few weeks they'll start nibbling on grass and then eventually gradually transition to being complete herbivores. All right, why don't we head across to Rosie's pan and see what bird life is waiting for us there? Well, looks like it's pretty windy over in Rosie's pan. I wouldn't be surprised if the rain is coming. Looks like we've got some starlings waiting for us, some Cape glossy starlings. Aren't they beautiful with that iridescent blue-purple coloration and those bright orange eyes of theirs? I won't be surprised if it starts raining at Rosie's pan sometime soon. This wind generally brings a lot of heavy downpour. Yeah, a lot of the birds during this rain, they'll try their best to seek refuge and hide in the thickets and trees while it's raining like this. And as we saw with the woolly neck storks, as soon as they get a moment of dryness, they'll also try to dry out those feathers and wings of theirs, because if they are wet, they're not able to fly too well. So they need to make sure those feathers of theirs dry out. I wonder if we've still got our hippo here at Rosie's pan. And there was a hippo that was hanging out in this pan here. You could barely notice him most of the time. He was, looked like a bit of just a log or a little mud island in the middle of the pan. It doesn't look like he is around. Where has our hippo gone to? We could have moved to greener pastures or another pan with more water. So what will happen is, if they know the water source is dwindling or not sufficient when they're feeding and grazing at night, they might also look for a better water or more stable water source. So we might have moved, but I'm surprised he was here for so long, because this pan can get quite busy at Rosie's. I've seen it completely filled with a herd of buffalo before. So buffalo do come through here to drink. Looks like there's something in the thicket there that could have just been a shadow. Here's a little herd of dwarf, a little family or a little band of dwarf mongoose that also live close to this pan. Sometimes we see them coming down for a bit of a drink here. Nope, our hippo is definitely no longer around. Can also be quite popular for elephants here. It's a good spot for elephants to come down for a drink as well. What else is out there? Alright, it seems a bit, action-free here at Rosie's Pan. Not too much activity. So why don't we head back across to Stony Point and check out some cormorants. So we have some Cape cormorants here. Oof, looks like the weather is a little bit miserable in Cape Town. I do love Cape Town, but that weather is a bit of a deterrent for me. Yeah. It can be quite chilly, quite cold, but I believe at the moment they're having warm days, but just very windy, warm days. So yeah, these cormorants have probably been out fishing all morning, looking for some bit of a grub, a bit of a lunch. Yeah, so cormorants will generally feed on, prefer to feed on fish, but they'll also feed on squid from time to time and other um, scavenge as well if they find some little leftover pieces of a bigger ocean life. They will scavenge, but generally they like to feed on fish, so they'll go out for a few hours at a time. They're especially designed and developed to for diving, ducking, and diving under the water while hunting. So, now they'll come and hang out in the sun, warm their bodies up a bit before they head out for their next hunting escapade. Lenny, thank you for joining us today from me and the rest of the Wild Earth crew. It's been awesome having you here. Lovely to end at Stony Point with the calming and soothing sounds of the ocean. You have the white-breasted cormorant here joining us as well. So two white-breasted cormorants and many Cape cormorants, which can be very beautiful during the breeding season with a bright blue iridescent color around the eye. Spasienko, thank you as well for joining us, and it is nice to end the show with some Cape cormorants. Anyways, I hope that everyone has had a fabulous weekend. Again, happy holidays from me and the rest of the Wild Earth crew. It has been lovely being with you today. I will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Please don't forget to tune in to the Sunset Safari. I am definitely praying for all of our naturalists at all of the different locations that they have some sunshine and it's not too cold and not too miserable. Anyways, folks, from me, that will be all for the rest of the day. I hope that you have a fabulous Sunday afternoon. Cheers, cheers, folks.